Good morning. Thank you for joining us for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the book of Hosea. And it's part of our larger study of the writing prophets who wrote to the northern kingdom. We're in Hosea chapter 10, and we're going to look at verses 1 through 8 today of chapter 10. And really are in the heart of God's rage at their idolatry, at their infidelity, and and his anger expresses itself somewhat as sarcasm and vitriol here in these verses. And of course he's going through all the emotions of the jilted partner, the wounded partner. And by the time we get to chapter 11, he's just going to talk about how much he loves them. And um, but he's still, he's gone from regret to anger to rage to sarcasm and vitriol. And we'll get some of that here in 10:1 through 8. Israel is a luxuriant vine. He produces fruit for himself. The more his fruit, the more altars he made. The richer his land, the better he made the sacred pillars. Their heart is faithless. Now they must bear their guilt. Yahweh will break down their altars and destroy their sacred pillars. Surely they will say, "We have no king, for we do not revere the Lord. As for the king, what can he do for us?" They speak mere words. With worthless oaths they make covenants, and judgment sprouts like poisonous weeds on the furrows of the field. The inhabitants of Samaria will feel fear for the calf of Bethaven. Indeed, its people will mourn for it, and its idolatrous priests will cry out for it over its glory, since it has departed from it. The thing itself will be carried to Assyria as tribute to King Yareb. Ephraim will be seized with shame, and Israel will be ashamed of its own counsel. Samaria will be cut off with her king, like a stick on the surface of the water. Also, the high places of Avon, the sins of Israel, will be destroyed. Thorns and thistles will grow on their altars. Then they will say to the mountains, "Cover us," and to the hills, "Fall on us." Now, God has talked about Egypt, but Egypt meaning captivity. This is the second time he made clear, you're going into captivity into Assyria. The early verses, you can hear God almost using a voice to mimic their voice. Um, and it's it's just so caustic. Israel is a luxuriant vine. Well, they think so. God said in the last chapter, "When I found your forefathers, when I found you, you were like wild grapes. You were like the first fig of the season on the first year that the fig gives us figs. I mean, you were just so special." But now they think they're special. Produces fruit for himself. Yeah, sure he does. Um, the more fruit they had, the more altars they made, and the richer his land, the better he made his sacred pillars. So Asherah and Baal, the goddess and the god of this fertility cult, are worshipped in groves. Asherah is worshipped in groves of trees. The tree was her symbol, and then the symbol for Baal was the pillar, which is it's a phallic symbol, is what it is, and they would put them on the high places. And that's what he's talking about. You're making better. The richer you were, you became. You put that money into making better idols to Baal. And so you've written your own destruction. You're going to be punished. Um, um, Samaria, of course, is the capital city. Beth Aven, Aven evil, house of evil, hills of evil. Um, you know, um, and Avon means evil, and then the calf. We mentioned this all the way back to First Kings chapter 12, when Jeroboam founded the northern kingdom. He established the bull cult. So they're worshiping the calf, the bull. They're worshiping God, sort of, not at all, and they're also really devoting themselves to the worship of Baal and Asherah. And he has compared them to a stick on the surface of the water. You'll be cut off and float away like a stick on the surface of the waters. That is a difficult word. It's not really the normal word for branch or twig. It can mean a piece of bark, a splinter, and some have suggested, depending upon the vowel pointing of the word, it might even mean foam on the water. But the whole notion of, I don't think you cut off foam. I think it's a piece of bark or a splinter of a tree, but you're cut off. You're just separated from where you belong, and now you're gone. You're floating away. And they will say to the mountains, "Cover us," and to the hills, "Fall on us." They've gone on up the mountains to worship Baal, and now they're wanting the mountains to fall on them. This is important, an important scripture. Jesus quotes this verse as he is carrying his cross to be crucified in Luke chapter 23. And then in the book of Revelation, chapter 6, people you quote this verse and calling upon the mountains to fall on them because they cower before the judgment of God. Well, we're going to finish up this section, and then when we get to chapter 11, God, the emotion is as high as it ever gets anywhere in Scripture. But God will be leaving behind his terrible anger and remember how much he loves them anyway. Okay, well, we're going to finish up chapter 10 next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.